of lens. So I'll be your first reporter. The introduction of this report is all about the definition of lens. So I'm Genesis Maliga. So Miss Crystal, can you next the slide, please? So I can define the lens. So when we say a lens, it's a ground or molded piece of transparent material that refracts light rays in such a way to form an image. So everybody knows that light rays are more main ingredient of this to see or capture an image. So lens is merely a material or a support to reflect the light rays such a way. So next, please. So next presentation, Miss Crystal. So the distinction between simple lens and compound lens. So when we say simple lens, it refers about the use of one lens. So what are the example of this simple lens? So basically, this example of these are more likely the one lens that uses for one material. For example, magnifying glass. Magnifying glass are example of the uses of simple lens because simple lens are used only one lens. And then for the compound lens uses for multiple lenses. For example, of compound lens are more likely microscopic. Microscope are use of to use a micro to see an image, more likely a smaller or microscopic image. So compound and simple lens are different because of their uses of lens and mostly type of lens. So Miss Crystal, can you proceed for the next slide, which is the definition of two types of lens. So type of lens. There are variety types of lens, so it's differ from one another in terms of their shape and material from which they are made. So please, number one type of lens, can you next slide please. So converging lens, or when we say convex lens, so this lens can be defined by their shape. So when we say converging or convex lens, their shape identify their shape by their relatively thick across their middle and thin at their upper and lower edge. So as you can see at the example, the angle at which the light enters the lens depends on the distance of the object from the lens. So if ever the object is close to the lens, the light rays are enter at sharper angle. So as it results, when we say the light rays converging away from the lens. Similarly, if the object is away from the lens, so more likely it is a part of simple lens because the shape of its lens is the thick middle part and thin edges. So this lens more likely converge to reflect light rays. So next, please, Miss Crystal. Oh, diverging lens or concave lens. So the type of lens of this, or when we say the shape of lens, are the opposite of converging lens. So when we say converging lens, diverging lens is opposite of concave lens, which is thick edges and thin middle part. So, for example, of these are more like the flashlight. So, diverging lens, when the parallel rays of light pass to this concave lens, frac, rays diverge, so they appear to come from the one point called the principal focus. So between this principal focus and the center of the lens is called the focal length. So later on we will discuss that what are the focal lengths are. So these lens are more likely the example of the scattered of light refractions. Now, for example, of these are like more likely flash, no? So the rays are scattered, so that's what we call diverge because the refract of light rays are being scattered when it passed through this lens. So next please, next reporter, can you identify it? Thank you.
Part of lenses. Next. First is filter thread. It's a threaded section inside the front of a lens to allow accessories such as filters and lens hood to be attached. So ang filter lenses, threaded lenses, kini siya is makita na to sa sulod sa front kaning small portion diri sa kamera. Kay diri pwede na to itaod ang mga lenses hood or filters na dapat i-attach. Next. Drop-in filter, also called as square filters. Type of filter that fit into a holder. Mauni ang ginatawag og square filters or kanagong block na mura siya plastic or any filters na fit sa kamera. Next. Rear filter. This is a especially true to for specialty lenses such as extreme wide angle fisheye lenses. So mauni ang ginatawag na lenses nga ginagamit for wide shot or makita nimo tanan view or halos tanan in one shot or fisheye. Next. Next is lens hood, a piece of plastic or metal that attaches to the front of your camera lens and make it look more professional. Mao ni ang gina-attach sa tubangan para mura siya og professional tanawon og kini sab mao ni gakip og scene contrast na para dili ma-affect ang kanindot sa view para tabon sulaw. Next is focusing ring. This is a ring on the lens body which move the lens elements inside the lens. Muna ang ginagamit pag-adjust para ma-adjust ang focus. Like sa atong gi-report ni Barsaluti. Next. Next is manual autofocus lens. With this mode, the camera sends signal to the lens, forcing it to change into focal placement. So kani siya ang gasend og signals. If gusto niya lahi ang ma-focus na view or lain ang ma-focus sa iyang focal. Next reporter.
Low. So, good afternoon, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. This is the distance indicator. From the word indicator, how you express the procedure and how you point out the distance of objects. So, in a current setting, kailangan pa nimo magkure-kure mag-measure para makuha nimo ang iyang right angle. So, you use zoom ring. Pag zoom nimo siya, makuha na nimo ang iyang right angle. Tapos, you use focusing distance indicator. So, which is na-focus na siya. E nakuha na nimo ang target. So, which is manual siya paggamit. So, that is the distance indicator. So, next. The lens specification markings. The lens specification markings is dra siya ginakuha ang focal length. The number you find on the lens are all very important because the distance between the pole of the mirror of optical center of the lens, which is makuha nimo ang focal length. So shorter focal length are called wide angle lens because to get a wider field of view in one image. So ang pasabot ato sa shorter focal length, while gakuha ka og pic in a wide angle, so makita ang iyang whole background. While ang long focal length are called telephoto lens and have smaller field of lens. So ang pasabot ato guys is habang gakuha ka og pic, which is mura siya kanang 2x2, like murag sa ID na nagod dili makita yung background, like fit lang siya sa lawas. So next, so depth of field indicators. Distance indicators pala. So distance indicator. As you observe, duha sila, distance indicator o distance indicators. So na siya kalahian kay na siya S. So paggamit sa distance indicators, dili siya manual use kay naka-built-in na siya sa iyang settings or let's say naka-fixed position kay nakuha na niya ang iyang distance. And naka-autofocus on capturing the objects. And magamit lang siya when you are making a film in analog and to guide for knowing which way to turn to lens to focus at a particular distance. So muna ang kalayan sa distance indicator o distance indicators. Next. So depth of field indicators. The lens that have distance indicators usually have depth of field indicators too. What these markings designate is how much of your scene will be in focus at a particular aperture. So what is an aperture do? Aperture is a hole in the lens that controls how much light gets into your camera. So magdepende siya sa aperture ring. Magdepende siya sa aperture ring kung unsa ang iyang size. Kay dra man kasulod ang light. This scale is located around the distance setting index below the focusing ring. So wala man tay lens, so dili na to makita ang depth of field kay by number mo na siya. So next. Picturing. So aperturing. The aperturing is the lower ended of the lens. Siya ang pinakalas nga settings na pagtaod sa kamera. So pagtaod sa aperturing, dira na mabuo ang kamera. Aperturing is one of the most important settings when taking your picture. Kaya it determines the amount of the light and depth of field and the sharpness of a picture. So aperturing is what hold the lens to set up the camera. So kung dili nimo mindset ang aperturing, dili mo gawas ang light. Dili siya maka picture, dili siya makagamit og kuan. So the opening of lens diaphragm through which light passes. So dira ga sulod ang light. So mo na ang silbi sa aperturing. So next. So zoom ring. So what is the function of the zoom ring? The function of the zoom ring is to change the focal length of the lens. In other words, adjust the zoom ring to change the perspective of the photo and size of the subject. And how does zoom ring work? You turn the zoom ring anti-clockwise para ma-zoom siya. And turning the zoom ring, change the focal length. And to help you to gauge your current angle sa view. So naroon na siya mo, move closer or further away from your object. So that is the part of the lens.
So, good morning everyone. Let's talk about the camera lens characteristics. So, next. Next, focal length is a determination of the range between the image sensor focal point to the center of the given lens. So ang pasabot ani kay ga-determine siya kung halimbawa unsa kalayo ang imong picturean. Diba, picturean nimo ang tao ay diba, unsa imong picturean layo. So kung unsa makita dito murag mao lang to kanang murag abang gaduol murag mas moto siya gid ba kanang halimbawa 50 mm ang picturean. So gamay sa tanawon murag di kay siya tambok. So kung halimbawa mo picture ka sa unsa kanang sa mas maglayo kanang ana murag maggamay sa tanawon murag ana ba. So next. So aperture. So ang aperture kay na-topic naman ni siya sa katong group 1. So kung halimbawa gadako gaway ang iyang bilog mas gamay ang ay mas gadako ang light na maunsa tos mabangga gamay murag gamay sad. So ang aperture kay connect sa din siya sa unsa depth of field. So next. So mo ni siyang depth of field. Depth of field refers to how much of the scene is in focus once correct lens focusing has been achieved. So mo ni siyang depth of field kung aning halimbawa mo picture ka sa unsa sa isa ka tao tapos dagan sila. So dapat ang focus nimo is tong isa lang ka tao. So halimbawa isa lang katawo yung picturean dito sa daghan. So murag ang depth of field murag mag-blur tong uban na tao kay dito lang siya makapokus sa isa. So ang ang aperture niya ato is gamay. Kay kung gamay ang aperture mas isa lang nakafocus. So habang gawide ang aperture, murag makafocus siya sa tanan. So mo to siya ang depth of field o aperture. Nakafocus siya kung gamay ang aperture to sa isa ka tao, makafocus siya sa isa ka tao kung gamay ang aperture, isa lang ka tao. So habang gawide ang aperture, murag mawala yung blurry sa side ug side, murag makafocus na siya sa tanan. So kung magdako iyang aperture, so mo to siyang depth of field ug focal length. So next. Image stabilization. So kaning image stabilization guys, kaning halimbawa magpicture ka tapos imong picturean kay kaning lihok good, kusog yung lihok halimbawa picture ka kaning gamotor imong picturean. Picturean nimo ng gamotor kay halimbawa kriminal na. Picturean nimo siya para maklaro gyud nimo. So ang image stabilization guys kay bisag galihok pa na siya, maka-focus gyapon siya sa katong picturean nimo, di siya blur tanawon. Diba? Picturean nimo kanang liho kayo nga bisag unsa. Bisag unsa nabutang basta kanang liho kayo. So picturean nimo na siya. So ang image stabilization kay kanang hindi siya blur tanawon, maka-focus gyapon siya sa imong ginapicturean bisag lihok. Muna siyang image stabilization. It is the glass elements in the lens that are controlled by motor which notice tiny shift in camera movement and keeps things steady in the viewfinder. Mo to siya, rare LCD. So next. Siya guys maka-focus siya bisag lihok. So I will give the floor the next reporter.
Good day, everyone. So let's move on to the main types of camera lenses. Next. Next, please. So the first one is zoom lens or zoom lenses. A zoom lens makes it possible to photograph different views of a scene, closer or farther away, without changing your position or changing the camera lens. So the reason why it is also called variable focal length lenses is because zoom lenses have zoom rings. So mo ni siyang para ma-change ang iyang focal length between 24 to 105 millimeters. So di na nimo siya di na ka kailangan magbalin-balin og position para makuha to imong gusto ang object na gusto nimo ma-capture kay pwede ra kayo nimo i-change ang iyang focal length. Next please. So the second one is prime lenses. These are camera lenses that have a single focal length and are also known as fixed focal length lenses. So unlike sa sa zoom lens kay pwede nimo siya pwede nimo ma-change ang iyang focal length. Pero kani siya kay lang siya kanang nasa fixed nga focal length around 35, 55 or 85 millimeters. Pero mas mao ni siyang prefer sa mga kadaghanan kay mas gaan siya ug dali ra siya daladalahon kay og kuan pod kanang sharp ang iyang kuha sa images og mas quality. Next please. So categories of prime lenses. The first one is wide-angle lenses, cover a wider area than the normal viewing range of the human eye. So, mo ni siyang mga scenes na you want to capture as much as possible. Mura po ni siya og fisheye lens, but ang fisheye lens kay 180 degrees siya, mas wider iyang kuha. So, ang best example ani mga ang kaning wide-angle lens no kay kaning mga landscapes, cityscapes o ganing architecture. Next, please. So the second one is standard lens, also called as normal lens, would be roughly in the 45 millimeter to 60 millimeter focal length range. So ginatawag ni siya normal lens kay it sees how the human being sees the world. So mao ni siya ang kasagaran ginagamit sa mga cinematographers kay para mas mas realistic o mas naturalistic siya. Next reporter please.
Next, telephoto lenses. Telephoto lenses have a narrower field of view with magnify the scene for a closer view. Camera lenses from around 70 mm to around 135 mm are classified medium telephoto lenses. Telephoto lenses in 300 mm plus range are often called super telephoto. So ang telephoto lenses daw kay ginagamit siya kung gusto nimo makakuha og image nga mas duol sa pananaw. And ang telephoto pod kay bisag layo siya sa imong pag-captured kay mas mahimo siyang mas dako. Next, please. Next, yes. Microlenses. Microlens are used for very close-up photography. A microlens have smaller minimum focusing distance than a normal camera. So ang microlens daw kay ginagamit siya sa mga gagmay na object, example ulod, mga amigas. Unya na siya mas gamay na minimum distansya sa pagtuto kaysa sa normal na camera. Next. Specialty lenses. Specialty lenses. These specialty lenses have been created for specific reason. Next. Fisheye lens. A fisheye lens is ultra wide angle lens that can take a full 180-degree radius around it. Fisheye lenses are also named because they distort an image field of a view, making even a room in a house look like a bubble. So ang ultra lens daw kay ultra wide angle siya nga makuha og 180-degree nga radius. Familiar man tanig fisheye no katong circle na mura siya bubble na pagka-captured god. Next.
Yawa.
Next please.
Nag-video pag yun.
Tilt-shift lens. A tilt-shift lens distorts perspectives, making things look smaller than they really are, almost as if they are toys. So, ang tilt-shift daw kay mas gamay siya kaysa sa tinuod ug mas darker siya kaysa sa tinuod. Next. Infrared lens. This lens plays with light rather than perspective, filtering out of light waves. Expect infrared a unique visual effect. So, ang infrared daw kay nagadula sila sa kahayag kaysa sa pananaw. Next, please.
So, good morning, everyone. Let's now proceed to the lens aberration. So, what is lens aberration or aberration? An aberration is an imperfection in a way a lens focuses the light it captures. Aberrations occurs because the rays of light passing through a lens fail to converge at a single point. All lenses suffer from aberrations. We should remember that there is no such thing as perfect lens. But however, high degree of engineering nowadays involve a lens reduces the lens aberration problems to unacceptable levels. So there are two types of lens aberrations, namely the chromatic aberration or the color fringing and the monochromatic aberration. So first is what is chromatic aberration? Chromatic aberration is the resultant of imperfection when a lens cannot focus various wavelengths of color at the same point. A color haze, often purple but sometimes other colors, appears on a subject's edges, decreasing the clarity and sharpness of the object. As a result of that, shooting a black subject against a white background creates an image where the subject has a blurred color fringe that separates it from the background. So here is an example of a chromatic aberration picture. So as you can see, in the object's edges, we can see many colors like purple, blue, green. So that is what we call the chromatic aberration. It So makita jud ninyo no na murag na separate jud ang object from its background. Ang background niya kay medyo white tapos medyo na focus sa object tapos ang object na siya murag something color free na hitabo sa edge sa object which kanang makita nato na siya lain-lain nga color. That is a chromatic aberration or a color fringing. Next, Udasan.
Okay, so let's talk about the different types of chromatic aberration. Next slide, please. Lateral chromatic aberration. So, as you can see sa picture, di siya clear ang iyahang image because kaning naa siya color fringing. So, when we say color fringing, naa siya color distortion, naga-create og kaning outline, naga-create og outline or unwanted colors sa image. So, next slide, please. So, lateral chromatic aberration. Kani siya kay visible only sa edge sa frame siya. So, wala gito kaning naa siya color fringing, color distortion lagi nga create og outline sa kilid sa image or sa photograph. So, next reporter.
So the second type of aberration is the monochromatic aberration. Monochromatic aberrations are the resultant of imperfection when lenses can't focus a single color of light. So as you can see here in the example photo, when we say monochromatic, it contains or use only one color. So kung magka-diferensya ang lens sa camera, murag mohatag siya aberration nga kanang murag di siya makafocus sa single color of light mo nang ang object murag it's either white lang or black and white lang mo ganing gitawag siya nga monochromatic aberration.
Good morning, everyone. I will talk about the subtypes of monochromatic aberration. Next. First, astigmatism. Inability of lens to focus both horizontal and vertical lines stimulously sharp. Kanina picture kay it has blurred vision at all distance. Next, please. Spherical aberration. Glass elements in the lens cause light to converge at different places on the sensor. Person in sa picture has a blurriness of at the edge of an image but clear siya sa tunga. Next please. Chromatic aberration occurs when the single point of light enters the lens at an angle in each edge rather than straight on the center of the lenses. Sa picture ani, it is like a comet with a blurred tail. Person ni Morg, suga lang. Next please. Field curvature occurs when the lens focuses light into the imaginary curved surface rather than flat plane. Fitzgerald field curvature. Person is a picture that makes the planar object look curved in the image. Next reporter, please.
Hello guys. Distortion occur when the lens projects a wider scene across a sensor or film plane. Image fails to retain its rectilinearity. Next slide. Types of distortion. Barrel distortion. Ang barrel distortion is mura siya kanang naka-zoom in tapos murag naka-wide 0.5. Next slide. Next slide please. Pincushion distortion. Kani kay mura siya katong kabaliktaran sa first nga distortion. Mura siya naka-zoom out. Next slide. Mustache distortion. Gani kay equal lang siya. Wala siya naka-zoom in, wala pa siya naka-zoom out. Next slide, please. Next reporter.
Other lens defects. Next slide, please. Other lens defects, number 1, flare. Ang flare, mao ni ang kanang, kunwari, naggamit ka og camera, then i-focus or atubang naman siya sa sun. Mao ni siya ang mao ni ang kagawsan sa camera, like kanang, parang silaw, gani siya. Next. Ghost. A type of flare occurs when light repeatedly reflects off the surface of the lens and seen in the image. So kani is kaning kunwari nagamit mo camera, then kanang mag-reflect ang mag-reflect ang sa sa kanang sa sun gani, tas mo sa camera ni siya mer kanang mulabo-labo gani siya. Please. Light loss. Whenever light rays strike the surface of any lens, light loss by reflection. So kani is kanang pag kanang light rays kay maigo sa camera lens, kanang murag mo-action na siya glabo, kanang murag dili na siya kanang sa image niya ba. So air bubbles in lenses. So ang air bubbles is kanang ang uban air bubbles is gikan siya sa kanang pagmoy sa camera, or ang uban is kanang sa gikan sa heating process. And ang air bubbles is kanang ano ni siya, makapangit ni siya sa kuha og image sa isa ka camera. Next please. And Newton's ring. Ang Newton's ring kay kanang kung magkuha ka og kanang mag-take ka og picture, then kanang murag na siya blur gani sa sa image, kana same ani na sa sa picture, mao na siya ang tawag nga Newton's ring. And ang cause sa Newton's ring is when a positive and negative lenses of slightly unequal curvature are pressed together. Next.
Again, good morning everyone. I am Jennifer Edwana Marfield, the last reporter of Group 2. So our last topic is the corrected lens for aberration. We have 4 corrected lens for aberration. The number 1 is the achromatic lens. Achromatic lens is specially designed to control the effects of chromatic distortion. Please ko pa off sa sa mic. Okay, again, a chromatic lens is specially designed to control the effects of chromatic distortion or aberration. So, it is also known as achromat. As my member discussed, chromatic distortion, nagki-create siya ng imperfection. For example, yung two wavelength, yung two colors, it should be focused on one direction. But due to chromatic distortion, yung color dun sa picture, like parang rainbow siya or unwanted colors, parang may lumabas dun sa image. And yung gagawin ni achromatic lens is i-correct niya yung dalawang wavelength, which is generally the color blue and red. Let me show to you guys. Ay, kali. So this is how chromatic lens look like. And nakikita natin, 'di ba, yung mga wavelength or yung mga color is sabog-sabog or hiwa-hiwalay. That's why nagki-create talaga siya ng unwanted colors sa sa image. And this is how a chromatic lens work, 'di ba? Nakita natin na yung sa achromatic distortion, kakaiwa-hiwalay siya. But sa achromatic lens, itatama na yung direction ng wavelength. And remember that sa achromatic lens is generally there are just two colors, which is the color blue and red. Next, please. Next is the achromatic lens. Achromatic lens, also known as apochromatic trifold. It issues a series of 3 lenses. So, sa sa apochromatic lens, ito naman, yung kinokorek niya naman is yung spherical distortion. So, yung number 1, which is the achromatic lens, yung kinokorek niya is the chromatic distortion. Dito naman kay number 2, yung kinokorek niya is si spherical distortion. So, sa sa apochromatic lens, there is 3 colors, which is the primary colors, the blue, green, and red. Remember that. Number 3, please. Next, please. dito naman kay astigmatism, a compound lens corrected so astigmatism ni siya. So it is corrected the astigmatism distortion, which is yung astigmatism is commonly eye problem. So nakikreate siya ng blurred. Kung makikita natin, sometimes may mga may mga tao na blurred yung yung paningin nila. And that is what we call astigmat problem, eye problem. So yung gagawin ni astigmatism, ni astigmat lens is papalinawin niya yung horizontal and another one, basta yung horizontal and para mas clear yung yung video or picture. And the last is, next please. Next please. And the last is the rapid rectilinear lens, also called as RR lens, a symmetric pair of cemented achromatic doublets. So, yung nakikita natin sa picture, yan yung example ng rapid rectilinear lens. And yung kinokorek niya naman is yung radial distortion. Remember that achromatic lens, yung kinokorek niya is yung chromatic distortion, and it has generally two colors, which is the red and blue. The second is the apochromatic lens, and yung kinokorek niya naman is yung spherical distortion. It has three wavelength, three colors, the primary colors, which is the blue, green, and red, and the third one is the okay, balik ko crystal please. Astigmat lens, yung kinokorek niya naman yung astigmatism or para maiwasan yung blurred. Yan yung astigmat lens. And the last is the rapid rectilinear lens. And yung kinokorek niya naman is yung radial distortion. And that's all guys. We're hoping na marami kayo natutunan. Again, this is the presentation of Group 4. Group 2. I mean, Group 2. Thank you.
Yay!
Nice one.
Nice one, guys. Tapos na yun.
Pakikat na lang.
Ano na ninyo? Yawa man niyo na mali ko record sa Canva ako na record nga tab dili sa Gmeet.
Ako ya tinunsa kaning napindot ko Facebook para na tapos nagita og movie sa luklok. Pero kadali lang ko. Nadunggan magyapon ng mga storya.
Uy, kung pwede lang ma-edit, pwede na yan.
Dati.
Canva jud
Okay
na
na?
ano bro.
Okay, post ko na.
Guys,
Wait lang.
i-try daw gramatika.
Oh.
Baka okay naman na.
Record ka.